the most common undergraduate major of CEOs is history.
History comes in number 2 on the list.
Yeah.
Political science and government comes in at number 1. Philosophy is number 4. And then English is also on there.
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University, brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings to you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's Being the Change.
What's up, JMU? Welcome to Being the Change. Andy Perrine here. Today we're going to grapple with a very big question in higher education. Is a degree in the liberal arts worth the investment? And it's a widely misunderstood question and topic. And with us are two folks from the JMU College of Arts and Letters to help us explore that question and also provide us with some solutions that JMU is actively working at. Traci Zimmerman is the interim dean of the College of Arts and Letters. Welcome, Traci.
Thank you.
And Shannon Wilson is the director of career development and engagement. Did I get that right?
We say professional development, but I think career development's more accurate.
Okay. And they're both here to help us work through this question and help our listeners understand what it means to get a liberal arts degree and then how it can serve you in a career and becoming a well-rounded, versatile person. But to set the table for our listeners, Traci, why don't you describe, since it's such a sprawling college, just what programs are in the College of Arts and Letters at JMU?
Sure. We are one of the larger colleges at James Madison. We have over 3,100 students who major in one of our disciplines. We have a little over probably 260 faculty members. I didn't count this morning, but around 260 faculty members, 10 departments, 13 majors, and they go anywhere from anthropology to writing, rhetoric, and technical communication. Fantastic 13 majors, more than 60 minors. We have some that are cross-disciplinary, some that are disciplinary. We have pre-professional programs such as pre-law and pre-theology. We have 6 graduate programs, and we have about 7 institutes and centers. So we are sprawling, but it's really, I think, one of the things that make us such a wonderful community on campus.
Well, and also the College of Arts and Letters plays a very large role in delivering the general education program at JMU.
Absolutely, and I think that's directly tied to that sort of value of the liberal education that we're going to talk about as well.
And it somewhat represents the original Madison College because it's housed on the quad. All of the programs are on the quad and the Bluestone.
Yes.
And the original university, along with the Department of Education, was basically arts and letters.
Yes. Well, I mean, and again, just thinking about sort of the beginnings of liberal arts education very much mirrors that too. But we're very fortunate to be on the quad. I think it enhances our learning.
And especially when there's puppies that have bandanas on.
True, but that represents quite a distraction, I think, but a welcome one.
A welcome distraction. Yes. Well, why don't you define for us what the liberal arts actually means? I think there's a lot of folks who have misconceptions that the liberal part is something attached to politics.
Sure, and I mean that's understandable. I mean, we hear that. When we hear the liberal arts, we think it's the opposite of conservative. But really, if you look at the root of the word liberal, it's in liber, which means free. And really, liberal arts are things that are free from utility. It doesn't mean they're not useful, but they're not tied very specifically to a particular job, right? And so I think the thing that makes it exciting is that it is free, and that what our students end up experiencing in our classes is that being immediately faced with, I think, the conditions of living and thinking and language, the conditions of being human, the contradictions that are inherent in that. And I think that ultimately the exposure they get through either general education courses, because those are certainly institution-wide, they're not just in College of Arts and Letters, but they really sort of are forced in a really important way to make sense of those contradictions and really face the questions that we've been dealing with for years as humans. These are the things that stay, is what I like to call them. And really what a liberal arts education is it's far from being, the opposite of conservative. It really is, I think, at the root of all that we do, because what motivates us to create new technologies or to find solutions to problems, we've got the human is in there. And the liberal arts is really, for James Madison, it's liberal arts, humanities, and social sciences. And I think all of that is really an important piece to the puzzle and a very vital piece that needs to be there, sort of woven throughout.
Well, and the Greeks and the Romans believed that as free citizens, the studying of these disciplines was actually liberating, and it allowed you to be a free citizen.
Absolutely, liberating and empowering. And I think that spirit is alive and well in the College of Arts and Letters, and it really is integral, I think, to the sort of again, being human, whatever age, right, 21st century and beyond. But it's really those kinds of skills and competencies and really habits of mind and ways of thinking that are really going to educate, I think, the whole person, both within and without of their career, within and without of a career, not just tied to one.
Well, and speaking of career, I'm a huge fan of the Association of American Colleges and Universities, the AAC&U, and they've done a lot of research about the connection between the liberal arts and what employers are looking for. And the research shows that what you get out of the liberal arts crosses all majors. And that it's the critical thinking skills, the ethical reasoning skills, the ability to work in teams. Those are the things that employers, they want you to be trained in your professional area, sure. But those are the things that employers value most.
They do. They want you to be trained, but they also want you to be trainable. And you have to be flexible. You have to be what I like to call intellectually agile. Our students are absolutely learning those kinds of competencies. I was just in talking to Shannon before this interview, I said, hey, it's not the major, it's the mindset. And you really have to have a growth mindset. And if there's anything that you learn when you're dealing with a lot of uncertainty, when you look at the kinds of disciplines that are in our department, they're very sticky problems that have been around for years and years. And I think it's really understanding that growth mindset and learning those skills and attention to detail. And of course, you're dealing with complex data sets. You're dealing with all kinds of contradictions. And that really does help to make you a better human and to sort of understand, especially other perspectives and bringing those together. It's rather than sort of a narrow focused view of a subject.
I love the idea that it's not the major, it's the mindset. Here at Being the Change podcast, that's the mindset that we really always are trying to promote. Well, I love just how well you described that, Traci, and I'd like to move on to the Career Readiness Conference that the college puts on, because to me, this is exactly what gets at the value of a place like JMU and our concern for student outcomes. And so it's not as if the College of Arts and Letters is just turning our graduates out with no understanding of how to apply an English degree or a political science degree. And we've got this Career Readiness Conference that the College of Arts and Letters has been putting on. And Shannon, you're behind this conference. I'd love for you to tell our listeners a little bit about how it came to be and how it operates.
Yes, happy to talk about the Career Readiness Conference. It's one of the biggest events that our college does for our students, and we find that our alumni really enjoy coming back, and it gives them a place to be engaged with the students one-on-one or in a group setting. So what we do is we have alumni come back, and we try to get a wide representation from the many majors and the many different phases of careers that our alumni are in, and talk about that experience. Like, what happens once you graduate? What does that look like? What are you doing? How did you get there? And it takes the mindset of the student from, there's nothing out here for me, what do I do? to there are so many options. I actually really need to focus on narrowing that down. What is important to me?
And as an alumnus of the College of Arts and Letters, 1986, long before our current students walked this earth, I've attended and spoke at a lot of PR classes. And one of the things that students are really hungry for after I get through the PR part is they want to hear about my career. And it's really exciting to talk to students about it, not in a bragging sort of way, but in a way that it's like, wow, I really do have some experience and it really can benefit these students.
Yes, and one thing that alumni always say is, man, I wish somebody had told me this when I was in your shoes. I wish I knew this when I was your age, but I didn't know where to go and I had to figure it out, which is one of the things that our students are great at doing. It's back to the liberal arts, and what they're prepared for is figuring out the things that aren't clear.
Well, and describe for us how the conference actually works. It's a day long, it's a couple days long, and people come back. So tell us how it actually works.
Yes, the conference has been through different iterations. Traci can definitely speak to the beginning.
Yeah, it had an interesting beginning. It was sort of an idea. It wasn't sort of an idea. It was an idea that came from an administrative professional that was in WRTC.
Which is writing, rhetoric, and technical.
Thank you for calling me on that, sir, because I will get that every time. Writing, rhetoric, and technical communication, and that's also my home department. So
I was going to say, you're faculty there.
Yeah. Yes, I'm a faculty member in that department.
Well, that would explain your familiarity and going right to the abbreviation.
Absolutely. And I was the academic unit head at the time, and my admin professional had gone to a conference, Sandra Parrington, and she had gone to a conference on campus with Daisy Brenneman, a faculty member in Justice Studies. And the two of them talked and said, hey, we have this great idea for the college. We'd like to maybe have some kind of career conference. We feel like students could probably use this, and then give them some language to talk about what they do and these competencies. They weren't using those exact terms, but they saw a need and they went for it. And I said, hey, what's the harm in bringing this to the dean? Like he could say no. So they did. I looked over their proposal. They took it to the dean. The dean thought it was fantastic, said, okay, y'all are in charge, gave them some money, and that is where it started. So I can let you pick it up from there, Shannon. But Shannon was in the dean's office, so it's a weird circle of life that we have going on with the conference here.
And how long ago was that?
2017, I believe, was the first year that they held the conference.
Yeah, okay.
So, yes. Going through the pandemic and everything else, it has been through several iterations. Sure. When it started and I was in the dean's office, the dean wanted to make sure that our office was kind of just supportive in the background so that their idea could flourish and we could grow this in an organic way. And it has grown quite organically since then. They did some virtual options during the pandemic, of course, and then 2 years ago we came back in person. And last year we did a couple changes to the format where the first day is alumni visiting classes. So faculty could sign up to invite alumni to their classroom, and then alumni could be matched based on their availability. And then the second day we had different panels with career-related topics, and we try to follow and incorporate the NACE career readiness competencies. And then could
you describe that for us a little bit?
Absolutely. So NACE is the National Association for Colleges and Employers. So it's one of the only places where you have people who are working with students and employers coming together to determine what are the things that we need to focus on. And they have the career competencies are career and self-development, which is kind of just having this motivation to always be improving yourself. Communication, verbal, written, interpersonal, it's all very, very important. Critical thinking, equity and inclusion, so being mindful that every voice is represented and that you're not in an echo chamber. Leadership, so being willing to take on leadership of a project or an idea and taking it through to the end. Professionalism, so dependability, integrity, always being there and being mindful of your personal brand, but also that your personal brand is part of the organization's brand. Teamwork, so always being able to work as part of a team, being flexible if somebody else's idea is better idea than being willing to work with that sort of thing. just agile, back to the agile piece. And then technology, which doesn't mean learning specific technologies, but it's being willing to learn technologies that are needed, and also being able to determine which technologies best suit a project or a need. So those would be the competencies that we try to focus on and incorporate.
And so tell me, what kind of interaction do you get between the alumni and the students?
Oh, it's magical. It's my favorite part of my job is that I create a space where alumni and students are in the same place, and then I sit back and I watch the magic happen. It's really energizing for me, but also for them. And we do panels, so we have set questions and things like that the panelists will answer, but then we have opportunities for the students to ask questions with the panelists and have some networking time. And it's always so interesting because the alumni want to ask the students, what is it like here on campus? What is it like to be back? What are you doing? What happened to this? Is so-and-so still here?
Sure.
And then the students are like, what did you do after you graduated? Like, where do I start? What advice do you have? So.
Well, and I love the proverbial light bulb switching on when that happens. And I'm guessing that for a lot of students, hearing from someone to whom they can relate, an alumnus who had the same experiences they did, but just a little bit earlier, describing for them a career, a fulsome career, and they had the same major.
Right. And that's another reason why we like to have a wide range of alumni who are in different phases of their career, because the students also want to hear, like, from somebody who just graduated, like, what do you do? How do you keep in touch with your friends? Or how did you find a job? How did you know where to look?
Well, I read this book, Shannon, and I think you actually brought a copy called "You Can Go Anywhere," and
I'll give you the official title. It says,
You can do
anything.
Yeah, by George
The Surprising
Anders.
Power of a Useless, in quotes, Liberal Arts Education by George Anders. Yes.
And one of the most interesting facts in that book is the top majors, undergraduate majors of leaders in almost every industry. And I think I read that the most common undergraduate major of CEOs is history.
History comes in number 2 on the list.
Yeah.
Political science and government comes in at number 1. Philosophy is number 4. And then English is also on there.
A lot of times those folks go on to get an MBA or an engineering degree or whatever industry they're going into. But it's fascinating to me that that's, the beginning of their intellectual awakening or their academic experiences is in these majors.
Yes. And one thing that I think our students find fascinating and don't realize is that you can go and get a graduate degree in a field that's different than what you got your undergraduate degree in. And I think that that's another a testament to what you get from a liberal arts degree, because you can do research, you can do all the things, you have all the skills ready to just jump into any direction.
One of the university's most watched YouTube videos that is not an athletic historical video is Carly Fiorina, who is on our board, giving a speech about the value of the liberal arts. And Carly Fiorina, who many of our listeners will recognize, was the CEO of Hewlett-Packard, and her undergraduate degree was in the classics. And then she went on to get an MBA, and she had the kind of experience that you're describing exactly, Shannon. And are you hearing from some alumni who come back that they've done the same kind of path?
Absolutely. They get a graduate degree in a lot of different things. And our feature panel last year at the Career Readiness Conference was 3 different people who had different paths after they graduated. So one went directly from undergraduate to graduate, and she kept the same program. One went from working or undergraduate to working and then got her MBA and had the company pay for it. And then one who's very successful and didn't go to graduate school at all. She's working in human resources for a book company that's well known. So,
wow, that's great. Well, one of the things that is a really important area to explore in this topic of the liberal arts is the university's continuing evolution as a research institution. And one of the things that I hear very commonly is that it's great that JMU is developing and blossoming into this bigger, more research-focused institution, but is it going to lose its essence? Is it going to lose what makes it JMU? And I think, as the interim dean of the College of Arts and Letters, Traci, I'm guessing you might have a strong opinion on that.
I do. I think research at its core is all about loving the question. And I don't know, I can't claim in the College of Arts and Letters that we love the question more than anybody else, but we do love the questions. And we like to look at a range of answers and see what's going to be best. So in moving to an R2, we have research, scholarship, and creative endeavors going on in the college. And all of these things are, they're generative, they're productive, they're creative, they're full of possibility. And I think the kinds of research that's going on in our college are really things that are undergirding and setting up, James Madison and our college for future growth. So we're not going to lose our essence. If anything, I think it's if we can really get behind it and support it and provide those spaces for faculty to do the kind of engaged learning that they're doing and increase that and increase their research and creative outputs. It's, you can go anywhere, to quote someone I just heard. So you really can. I think what our faculty 100%, what gets them excited is not just their research, but the sharing of the research. They're not doing this in a vacuum. They love encouraging and involving undergraduates in that research, and they love having those conversations and learning something new. So I think they model that which they wish to inspire in others, and it's really that constant inquiry, intellectual agility, thoughtful humanity that you get in our college. So we're super excited about R2, and we want to see it amplify and extend our work even more.
And for those who don't know what R2 means, it's a research high research doctoral institution, which we were recently classified as by the Carnegie Commission.
Right.
Well, to close, I would love for Shannon to let any alumni out there know how they can get involved with the conference.
Absolutely. Any alumni who are interested in participating in the conference or just coming back and participating in any of our other programming opportunities can send me an email. My email address is wilso4sl@jmu.edu, and I would love to hear from you.
That's great. Well, we thank you both so much for being on Being the Change today. And for our listeners, if you have an idea for a future episode of Being the Change, you can reach us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. And until next time, take it easy.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next time to hear another story of how members of the James Madison University community are being the change. Dive deeper and consume countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and the team at Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Steve Adderton, the guy who also captures those amazing campus drone shots you see on Instagram. Original music by Neil Perrine, and episode production by the Downtown Creative. All of us involved in creating Being the Change are JMU alumni, and we bleed purple. You can find the Being the Change podcast on all popular platforms, where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.